It's worse than anyone thought that Stephen Colbert's health problem is. Because of his medical situation, he was in a battle for his life, but that's not the worst thing that will happen to him. He is now facing the toughest test of his career. Ratings are going down. Trump is back. Fans are very worried about what's going on at CBS because of new reports. We now have new pictures that show the truth. It's not good. He was born in Washington, D.C. on May 13, 1964. He is the youngest of 11 children. He was born to James William Colbert Jr. and Lorna Elizabeth Colbert. They raised their large Catholic family with a mix of deep religion and intellectual curiosity. His father was a well-known and respected immunologist and head of a medical school. His housewife mother respected being kind and strong. In the beginning, the family lived in Bethesda, Maryland. When Stephen was young, they moved to Charleston, South Carolina. Stephen grew up on James Island, which is a suburb of Charleston. He had older brothers named James III, Edward, Mary, William, Margot, Thomas, Jay, Elizabeth, Paul, and Peter. His folks wanted him to think deeply and talk about things at the dinner table. French humanist writers like Léon Bloy and Jacques Maritain were important to his father. The ideas of Dorothy Day and the Catholic worker movement spoke to his mother. Stephen's sharp mind and great sense of fun came from being around them. When he was 10, everything changed for him. East Coast Flight 212 went down on September 11, 1974, as they tried to land in Charlotte, North Carolina. 19 of Stephen's brothers, Paul, who was 15, and Peter, who was 18, were killed in the crash. Later, investigators found that the crash was caused by bad behavior in the cockpit and poor sight. The loss broke up his youth. His mother moved the family to downtown Charleston because she was now a widow and had to raise 9 kids by herself. To get money, she opened a bed and breakfast. Stephen used to be a happy, active kid, but he became quiet and thought a lot. He read fiction books for hours on end, especially J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings. Nothing else could have reached him like the book's ideas of strength and hope. He also found Dungeons and Dragons, which let him flee into stories and his own thoughts. Soon after, there was another test. He lost all hearing in his right ear after surgery as a child to remove a growth from it. His goal was to become a marine biologist, but the harm killed that dream. It became impossible to scuba dive without an eardrum on one side. After he lost that dream, he had to look for something else. He fell in love with acting at Charleston's Episcopal Porter God School. He took part in school plays and wrote for the school newspaper. He wasn't very interested in school, but playing gave him a reason to live. At the same time, he took on the lead vocal duties of A Shot in the Dark, a short-lived Rolling Stones cover band. It didn't last long, but it helped him get used to being on stage. He went to Hampton-Sydney College in Virginia to study philosophy after high school. The subject fit his need to think deeply, but something seemed off. He was still great at playing. He made a brave choice after 2 years. In 1984, he moved to Northwestern University to study acting. He found his true love at Northwestern. He spent a lot of time playing and improvising. His first teacher was Del Close, who put him in touch with a comedy group called No Fun Mud Piranhas, a comedy legend. He also worked several other jobs to support himself, such as a shift in the school cafeteria and a job at the library fixing computer data. Northwestern's theater was hard to do. He pushed himself to take both the Shakespeare and Shaw acting routines at the same time in his last year. He was tired afterward, but he loved the task. His hard work paid off. He used to think of himself as a serious dramatic actor, but comedy got him interested. It made him accept that things wouldn't always go as planned and sharpened his wit. He kept performing even when only a few people showed up. Every show taught me how to be strong. Stephen Colbert got his big break with The Dana Carvey Show in 1996. It was a sketch comedy show that didn't last long, but became famous. He was a new comic trying to find his place in the business at the time. The show had a great group of up-and-coming stars like Steve Carell, Robert Smigel, and Louis C.K. Even though it only ran for 7 episodes before being cancelled, it had a huge effect on comedy. One of the best sketches was called Waiters Who Are Nauseated by Food. Colbert and Carell played waiters who were gaga over the menu items they had to explain. The sketch was very easy, but it was done very well. Even though they tried to stay calm, things got worse. They became more over the top in their responses, which made the ridiculousness even funnier. After all these years, they did it again on The Late Show in 2019, showing that some jokes are always funny. People did more than just laugh at that sketch. Colbert's job changed because of it. Later, Madeline Smithberg, who helped make The Daily Show, said that was one of the reasons she hired him. She had seen a lot of test tapes, but that one stood out. It showed how much Colbert cared about a character. The Dana Carvey show was cancelled in part because of sketch comedy that caused controversy, like the one with Bill Clinton and fake nipples. However, it became a cult favorite. What's more, it pushed Colbert toward the type of humor that would make his career. He started The Daily Show in 1997, when Craig Kilborn was still in charge. At that point, it was more of a joke about everyday news than a dig at politics. That changed when Jon Stewart took over in 1999. Colbert became one of the show's biggest stars as it got better and more focused. He made a character called the Foolish Expert that would become his symbol. He played a reporter who thought he was very important and spoke with bravado while saying things that didn't make sense. He wasn't just making fun of leaders, he was making fun of how the news covered them. This Week in God, in which he talked about religious issues with fake authority, was one of his most famous segments. But his big break came during the Florida recount for the 2000 presidential race. The whole country was watching, and Colbert's serious tone made the chaos funny. He stood out because he could find humor in tough conditions. He won 3 Primetime Emmy Awards over the years for his work on The Daily Show. It also helped him get better at comedy and making things up on the spot. Getting him ready for the next big step in his career, Colbert became famous in 2005 with The Colbert Report, a show that he started as a spin-off from The Daily Show. The first episode of the show aired on October 17, 2005, and viewers quickly became interested. It got about 1.2 million viewers per show in its first week. The way it was put together was different from The Daily Show. It didn't talk about daily news stories. Instead, it focused on one character, Stephen Colbert, who was a satirical take on a right news commentator. He spoke out loud, was sure of himself, and was sure that his ideas were more important than facts. Colbert, Jon Stewart, and Ben Carlin all helped to make the show. It was already one of Comedy Central's most popular shows after just 1 month. It got great reviews, people really liked it. It won a lot of Emmy and Peabody Awards over the next 9 years. The way the set was made added to the joke. Over-the-top patriotic pictures were all over it, which fit the character at the center of it all exactly. Colbert's character on air was a well-thought-out parody. He called him a high-jep, well-meaning but badly informed idiot. He got ideas from real-life conservative talk show hosts like Bill O'Reilly and Geraldo Rivera and combined their confidence and style into something even stranger. Serious reporters like Stone Phillips, who spoke with a strong voice of authority, shaped his tone. But Colbert's character didn't report the truth. Instead, he changed it to fit his own views. The Threat Down was one of his most well-known regular segments, where he made a list of false threats to the country. Bears, the same threat, were always at the top of the list. He warned that they were dangerous to America and called them godless killing machines. The character was funny because of how silly they were, but there were more to them than that. He was too much and cocky, but he was scared too. He was mean to people who were stronger than him. He even said he was afraid of bears, which is known as arachnophobia. In the beginning, his interviews were all about keeping true to himself. He talked over other people, made fun of their ideas, and kept the attention on himself. That changed over time, though. He started giving his guests more time to talk, which led to some of the most famous late-night talks of the time. It wasn't just funny on the show, it really changed politics. Colbert started Americans for a Better Tomorrow in 2011 as a satirical super PAC to find holes in campaign finance rules. Trevor Potter, who used to be the head of the Federal Election Commission, helped him learn how to use the system like a real politician. There were even ads for him during the Republican races, including one that told people to vote for Rick Perry, a planned spelling mistake for Rick Perry's name. No one thought the joke would go so far. Campaign finance rules are broken, and the super PAC raised more than $1 million. This led to a real debate. Colbert had taken his comedy right into the halls of Congress a year before, in September 2010. He talked about farm work in front of the Immigration Subcommittee of the House Judiciary Committee. The idea behind it was easy. He had worked on a farm for 1 day and was now acting like he was an expert. His statement was a mix of funny and harsh criticism. He made fun of the fact that most of the soil is below ground level and said that America needed veggies that could pick themselves. Some politicians thought he was just a comedian who was wasting their time. Others got the deeper lesson about how hard it is for immigrant workers. In any case, the move got a lot of attention and made people talk. The Colbert Report had a big effect on culture as well as politics. Studies found that people who watched the show, especially those who weren't Republicans, learned more about politics. The Daily Show made fun of the news, but the Colbert Report did something that had never been done before. It blurred the lines between comedy and truth. What fans called the Colbert bump was one of the strangest things about the show. People who were guests often became more well-known afterward. When authors were interviewed, sales of their books went through the roof. Politicians got backing they didn't expect. There were even charities that got more funds after being on the show. Younger people started to trust the Colbert Report more than regular news. 3/6 of Democrats between the ages of 18 and 29 thought it was a good source of political news, more than CNN or NPR. The show also caused arguments about how to use media properly. Some conservatives thought Colbert was really backing right-wing ideas, while liberals knew it was all a joke. That it had two sides was part of its genius. People had to think about the media they watched and question how it presented information. The Colbert Report changed late-night TV for good by the time it finished in 2014. Satire could be more than just fun, as this showed. It could change the way people talk about politics, teach them, and make them think about how they think about news. Stephen Colbert took over The Late Show on September 8, 2015, after David Letterman had been in charge for 22 years. Letterman was one of the most important people in late-night TV because of his sharp humor and unpredictable conversations. Colbert had to find a way to make the show his own while still keeping people interested. He was already popular for the Colbert Report. Before his first show, the Ed Sullivan Theatre got a whole new look. The look from 1927 was brought back, but the technology was improved to work with a current production. It was time for a new beginning. Letterman's style was not the same as Colbert's. Letterman talked about celebrity culture and strange humor, while Colbert talked about politics and had deep talks. It all started with George Clooney as his first guest. The show would go on to have a mix of Hollywood stars, politicians, and cultural figures. But even though everyone was excited about his debut, the numbers were bad at first. People were used to seeing him on the Colbert Report as a satirical conservative expert, so it took him a while to get used to being himself on The Late Show. Colbert played a skewed right-wing analyst for 9 years, drawing ideas from people like Bill O'Reilly. A lot of people didn't know who the real Colbert was because they were so used to seeing that figure. It wasn't easy to let go of that avatar. He said that he felt vulnerable without the mask of satire to protect him. His former teacher and mentor Jon Stewart told him to accept himself as he is. In the beginning, Colbert didn't want to do some of the usual things on late-night TV, like the opening speech, but he got used to it as time went on. Chris Litch, the show's executive producer, told him to focus on political humor that is current. He was able to bond with the crowd more naturally after making that change. In September 2015, Joe Biden was on Colbert, and it was one of the most memorable talks of his early career. Biden had just lost his son Beau to cancer and was thinking about running for president. It was a very personal talk. Biden talked about loss, strength, and the weight of public service. Colbert talked about his own sense of loss. When he was 10, he lost his father and 2 brothers in a plane crash. The chat was honest and full of feelings. It wasn't just a talk about politics. On late-night TV, it was a rare moment of real human touch. The times Barack Obama was on the show also stood out. Obama talked about his time in office and the challenges of being a leader in December 2020, when he was pushing his memoir, A Promised Land. There were both serious and funny parts in the talk. Obama might have missed Air Force One, Colbert joked, teased him about how easy it would have been for him to be president if he had hired Liam Neeson to help him with some things. The conversation showed that Colbert could have both serious and funny political conversations. The most important change for The Late Show happened when Donald Trump was president. As the political situation got worse, Colbert turned more and more to comedy. In his speeches, he broke down Trump's policies, news conferences, and unpredictable public statements. The show's popularity had gone through the roof by early 2017. The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon had been the most popular late-night show for years before Colbert took over. People still liked Fallon's non-political and funny style, but Colbert's straight take on current events was becoming more popular. The stats told the tale. In 2017, 3.76 million people watched The Late Show every night on average. The number of viewers rose by 13% from the previous year. Most of those new watchers were 50 years or older. Colbert's success showed that late-night TV was changing. People wanted more than just comedy skits and talks with famous people. They needed someone who could make sense of everything, while also being funny and smart. Over time, Colbert changed who he was as a late-night show and stopped being the Colbert Report. At first, the change was hard, but it turned out to be one of the best reinventions in TV history. Stephen Colbert's faith is more than just something he thinks about. It changes the way he sees the world, deals with grief, and makes jokes. Dua Lipa talked about his Catholic religion in an interview in 2022. He said that it is based on love, sacrifice, and the idea that death is not the end. He does everything with that idea in mind.